Today's scripture comes from Philippians chapter 1, verses 3 through 6. I thank my God every time I remember you, constantly praying with joy in every one of my prayers for all of you, because of your sharing in the gospel from the first day until now. I am confident of this, that the one who began good work among you will bring it to the completion by the day of Jesus Christ. Hi, I'm Annalise DiArmont, and I am a graduate of John Hanley High School in the class of 2019. I plan to attend Wake Forest University this fall to study politics and international affairs with a minor in environmental science. I was blessed to be a part of this amazing Blast youth group here at Braddock Street since my 7th grade year. I am so absolutely thankful to have joined a group that not only would provide a safe haven and a learning environment, but a fun experience with memories I could never forget. Throughout my life, I've identified myself as a Christian, and as a kid, I would go through the motions of going to Sunday services and Sunday school. However, the growth of my faith back then was merely a naive sprout, eager to learn and grow. I'll be completely honest. My pure motivation for services on Sunday as a kid was the guaranteed trips to Dunkin' Donuts or Amherst Diner with my family after church. But beginning my confirmation and commitment to Blast initiated my commitment to God and my faith. I thank my friends, family, mentors, and teachers for their constant support of my accomplishments and goals in life. However, Blast was the main contributor to my personal switch to looking forward to my faith journey instead of just donuts. I made forever friends and memories throughout my missions to South Dakota, Winchester, Guatemala, and will continue this in our mission to Pittsburgh this summer. For those who went to South Dakota, you will never forget my constant reenactment of my favorite movie, Forrest Gump, late into the nights. Also in Guatemala, I decided to go headfirst into a country where I spoke zero Spanish. I didn't let it bother me, and I made it my goal to connect with the kids despite the language barrier. A specific young boy named Jimmy called me a nickname all week, which I was pretty excited about, and I decided to brag to the group about how this kid had given me a nickname and I had finally made a connection, when I was informed that the name that I'd been called this entire week was Kaka, which directly translates to poop. Nonetheless, I was so grateful for that eye-opening experience in Guatemala, and I bet everyone on that trip would agree that we would go back in a heartbeat if we had the chance. But I would like to leave on a note, literally a sticky note, that I keep on the back of my phone that I made on a retreat in Eagle Eyrie. That is a constant reminder of the group that I love with all my heart. This note says, God's love is sacrifice, limitless, reckless, unconditional, and aggressive. All these words represent God's love. And to my Blast friends as I leave for college, like the scripture says, I thank my God every time I remember you. Thank you.
I've always been a part of a Methodist church. My parents ensured that I would always have a church family to turn to when needed. I was baptized at First United Methodist Church, which is where my family and I had attended before coming to Braddock Street. That church is where my family and I had met some of the most important people in our lives. I've known the Corbetts for as long as I can remember. Paula Corbett taught my preschool class when I was just 3 years old, and she was my first ever swim coach. She's the reason why I've been a competitive swimmer all my life. I don't know what I would be doing without her. My favorite Sundays are the ones when Wayne Corbett is either playing the piano, the organ, or both. He's incredibly talented, and his music just makes me so happy. I've always felt included whenever I was with them. When I was about 5, I felt like the coolest person when the big kids at the annual Corbett New Year's Eve party put me on their shoulders for a game of flashlight tag. Thank you for teaching me to always be inclusive of everyone, just as God had intended. We also met the Barkers through that church. They had been a part of our lives ever since. Patrick and Melissa have helped our family in more ways than one. They were there for us when my dad was employed. When my dad was deployed. They've taken care of our pets when we were out of town, and Melissa was even my confirmation mentor. I always have so much fun with their kids, Ryan and Katie. I look forward to when we all get together and Katie and I try a bunch of gymnastics skills, even though she's way better at it than I am. And you'll never meet a bigger fan of Star Wars than Ryan. I love seeing all of his new Star Wars gadgets, especially the ones that he builds himself. Their Aunt Jill Barker is always there for me when I need help to get through school. She listens to my constant rants about difficult classes, and she always offers to help me with my schoolwork. No one told me how many letters of recommendation you actually need towards the end of high school. Trust me, it's a lot. But Jill was always willing to write me one, which helped me so much throughout my senior year. I could always count on the Barkers to be there for me. I would like to thank them for everything that they've done. Many of you know Ann Hoffman, but I know her as my Nana. My family and I met Nana through our first church, and she quickly became a part of our family. A lot of people ask me if she's my grandmother, and I immediately say yes, although she technically isn't blood related. Whenever I go to her house, she spoils me like a grandmother would, and I never leave her house on an empty stomach. Not only does she care for me, but she also inspires me. She wakes up before the crack of dawn to go to the gym, to walk the track, and participate in a cycling class. On top of that, she also does push-ups and sit-ups like nobody's business. These amazing people have been there for me since day one, and they're still influencing my life today. I don't know what else to say other than thank you so much. Luckily, they were all able to come with us when we changed churches. I was in 6th grade when we made that decision, and that's when we found Braddock Street United Methodist Church. When I was younger, I hated change, but I quickly became more open-minded due to the welcoming members and the amount of involvement throughout the church. Since then, I have participated in many mission trips that have greatly impacted me and will only continue to do so. I will never forget about my time spent in Beau, Sierra Leone. I know the point of the mission was to help the children of the Child Rescue Center, but they ended up changing my life. I was able to see firsthand how the children lived, what they were put through, and how they never complained. They were the happiest people I have ever met, and that was because they knew that they always had God with them. I developed great relationships with those children, and I look at the cards that they wrote for me every single day. I can't imagine my life without my church, my faith, and all the great people I met along the way. I have been given experiences that I will cherish for a lifetime. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jack Owens. I'm a senior at James Wood High School. I'll be attending LFCC in the fall with a plan to transfer to Shenandoah University to major in history. This is a very strange moment for me. For the past 11 years, I've sat in that back pew and watched these senior Sundays go down, thinking about what am I going to say when I'm a senior. Well, here I am today, on my senior Sunday, with what I'm going to say. The big question for me is when I'm asked to look back is how faith, church, and worship have shaped my life. Faith, which is the complete trust or confidence in someone or something. Now, faith is probably something that is easy for you ladies and gentlemen to wrap your head around. You either believe or you don't believe. You trust in or you don't. But for a high school teenager, faith is so much more complicated and scary for us. Seeing kids that you've grown up with leave here because they don't believe in God anymore is scary when it happens. I believe now, in these 4 years of high school, is when youth truly start grasping a hold of what faith means to them, and how in this period of life is when your kids and my friends make the decision whether they believe or they don't. And that's the truth. Trust me, I've experienced it. About 3 years ago, when I was a sophomore in high school, I went on a youth retreat to Eagle Eyrie. I went into that weekend fully believing in God, and coming home that Sunday, ultimately questioning my faith, and then completely losing it. And that was it. Months went by without God in my life, living every day without faith, just going through the motions. That was one of the scariest moments of my life. When I look back on it now, I don't know what I did to get so lost. And then exactly a year later, I leave for that same Eagle Eyrie trip, again, but this time just going, not for a purpose or anything, because I had to. I ended up leaving that Sunday full of new faith in God. Now, many of you are more than likely confused on how exactly 1 year and a weekend can change a kid's outlook on faith and his beliefs. That leads me to my next topic, worship. For those who are not familiar with Eagle Eyrie, it is a weekend out of the year when Methodist youth from all over the state of Virginia come together in a retreat in the mountains of Lynchburg to praise Jesus for the weekend. I know that sounds awesome, right? Well, here's where it went wrong for me. Sophomore year, you go into Eagle Eyrie, and it's broken up between worship and small group sessions. And you have the option when you're in the small group session to speak up or not. And I guess just that sophomore year, you're too worried about what's going on outside in high school. I know that sounds silly for adults. How can that distract you with what's going on? But ask yourself that same question. How can you let what's going on with your job distract you from your faith and coming to church? It's just as silly as my excuse. And I wasn't active in those sessions, and I'd go to worship, and you'd sit there and just not even listen to the music. It's all about how much do you want to put in to get something in return. It's just not going to magically happen to you. So that very next year, my junior year, I go in deep down inside wanting to regain my faith. Sitting in that room at Eagle Eye with 500 youth, all engaged, all praising Jesus at the same time, and a little lonely when you're sitting there. So that weekend, that Saturday night when I'm sitting there in worship with my friends Annalise, Haley, and Casey, just watching them fully engaged in God and worship, that's when it kind of switched for me. That's when I regained the faith, just seeing 1,000 kids praise God for a weekend. That's where it changed. Now those people that shared those moments with me, we all come from one familiar place, and that's the church, the place where we are gathered today. Well, not this building, but the collective name we proudly call ourselves when we are gathered. It is you guys who have the biggest impact on the youth. So thank you. Thank you guys for being leaders, mentors, friends, parents to our youth. And to name people specifically that have helped me personally along my faith journey from 6th grade until now, thank you Jill, Tammy, Dan, Jamie, Sandy, Tim, Matt, and Brad, and specifically the clergy, past and present, that have been here while I've been a member of Braddock Street. And I think all the youth will agree the biggest thank you is to Kristen. Without her, none of us youth would be where we are today in our faith journey if it wasn't for her countless hours of planning, trips, and lessons, or spending hours on plane rides or our morning energizers we do. The amount of blood, sweat, and tears Kristen pours in just speaks volumes to us. Thank you again, Kristen, and the entire community of Braddock Street. You guys will always have a special place in my heart, and I will never forget the memories I've made here. Thank you, and God bless.
I'm Parker Bloodworth. Will be graduating from Millbrook High School and will be attending Lord Fairfax for software development. Let's wing this one more time, shall we? So, I'm normally running the sound and live stream for this, so hope it doesn't go wrong. So, having grown up basically in the church, I've lived a good portion of my life here. Literally and spiritually, physically, mentally, whatever. I've been here. I've been helping out before I was even old enough to enter the youth group. I helped set up VBS, set up the services, fetch whatever items were needed, papers, anything. I was there. I've tried everything I could to help and attended every single VBS since I was 3 years old, and I can remember almost every single one and the puppets. But then it all changed once I finally hit 6th grade. The worst English, I don't like middle school, but it was 6th grade. It is a big time. So then it really changed when I went on a trip, my first mission trip, which was to Georgia. And then I just experienced a whole new side of the world and just myself. Because once you go on a mission trip, you think you know who you are until you leave everything you own and have, and then you see what you really are. You forget your home, your bills, or whatever, your games, or whatever you do with your life. You just forget it behind and focus on whatever you're going for, which I don't remember exactly what the main giant focus was of Georgia because it was so long ago, but I just remember it was children because that's kind of a given. Children and painting, that's always a given with our mission trips. But then since then, I've been on every single mission trip over the summer except for New Jersey. If you wanted to ask New Jersey, ask Jack. That was his major trip. Everything else that I've been on, from Haiti to Africa, Guatemala, Winchester Mission 3 times, North Dakota, a lot. Literally traveled the world. And all of that would just really gave me a vision of what the church is, not just Braddock Street, but the church as a whole. I've seen literally churches that have been in ruins or ones that have just been a house that was just converted into a church. Or I've been into just a fellowship hall, but that's their sanctuary. It doesn't matter what the church building is. It's the people that make the church. You don't have to even understand the language or their accent. Even though they're speaking English, you can't understand it. But you still understand this is the church, and we are all worshiping the same God and all of that. We're even still using the same scriptures, even though it doesn't sound like it. So at least I believe that the church as a whole has made an impact on my life, on all their lives, here, around the world, or even in our own country. And that would not be possible without any of your help and support through all the various fundraisers and events and other things that we do to try to raise money for all this stuff. And I don't want to go individual thanks. I always forget somebody, and I feel bad about it later. So I'm just going to say thank you, everybody, specifically Mom, because duh. Yeah. So thank you, everybody, for supporting the ones that came after me, so the ones that basically raised me through the group, for raising me through it, and then for continuing to raise all the ones that are rising up through it to become me later. Hopefully not me exactly. So thank you all, and continue to support us and our youth group.